Perfect. Welcome to the 4th and 1 podcast. Today, we would just like to say thank you, Grandpa. Unfortunately, earlier this week, our grandfather, Richard Kern, Dr. Richard Kern, passed away due to from a quick illness. We want to say thank you, and we'll miss you. Just real quick, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be having this podcast. Born and raised outside of Detroit, Michigan. He was an avid everything Detroit, whether it was the Lions, the Tigers, or most importantly, the Michigan Wolverines. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be having this podcast, so we just wanted to say thank you.
Thanks, Grandpa. And, your people tell me how I get into Michigan, and I tell them my grandfather grew up just outside of Detroit. So thank you so much. You will be missed. Sad we couldn't get out there to see you one last time. But I'm so glad that you got to see your Wolverines win the Big Ten championship one more time and beat Ohio State, and even in the college football playoff.
With that being said, welcome to the 4th and 1 podcast. Total change of attitude there.
And pace.
Yeah. It's your boy, Simeon Schlicker. Across from me on the interwebs, on the worstest podcast in the world, is my brother, Captain Boring, a.k.a. Micaiah, coming to you live from Lidditz and Lancaster, Pennsylvania, home of the biggest lollipop. This week in sports was interesting to say the least. We wrapped up the college football season for sure.
We did. What?
Yeah, we have the championship left, but we wrapped it up.
Natty.
We got the natty.
We got the natty, but LSU got their butt kicked in the bowl game.
Cool.
By Kansas State in the random January 4th bowl. Yep. But people might be wondering, why isn't Captain Bourne talking more? Well, me and Simeon looked at each. Yeah, as I talk more. Well, that's my job, because you would also talk more. When we looked at each other during the college football playoff, and you kind of looked at me and said, I wonder if I should host the podcast.
We thought we'd try it out. Worst thing that happens is, I try it out a little bit. Y'all don't like it, or I don't like it, and that's what we get. So here we are. I decided to host because I'm less boring than my brother. And
that's not true.
We're going to roll on in with some of our sound bites working. See, I went to play one, and none of our...
Do none of them work?
Do none of our... Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. We might be able to get them to work. And, oh, wait.
Use.
Oh, there's...
Oh.
There it is.
There we go.
Hey! You had one job. Just the one?
Just the one. Okay, we got it working. So...
Figured it out. He just figured out the whole damn thing from beginning to end like he was in the room.
It happens. I was hoping that I could find... Here it is. Hey, I turned that down nicely. We're just going to kind of get into it a little bit, just with a few quick hitters here. Antonio Brown this week was released by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after...
Just today.
Just today, technically, but it was basically a done deal after Sunday. No one's sure. Exactly what happened.
Yeah, so more information came out today. They really didn't tell you anything on Sunday, and then Antonio Brown released a statement that his ankle was injured, and he even released screenshots of text messages with Bruce Arians. And then Bruce Arians came out today and said that he was mad about getting targets in the Jets game, in which they almost lost. I mean, who are you going to believe? The guy who has a track record of doing crazy shit? Or the head coach who doesn't have a track record of doing crazy shit?
Listen, Bruce Arians put up a lot with Antonio Brown. We're all surprised it lasted this long. Honestly, he was running routes just fine, so I think it was something else that they don't want to talk about. But at the end of the day, this is covered by everybody and everything, so we're going to move on.
All righty.
Caleb Wilson announces that he will be transferring.
Nope.
Caleb
wrong.
Williams, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Sorry, I apologize. Will announce that.
See, now you freed up my mind hole to correct every single thing that you get wrong.
That is great. I love it. He announced that he will be seeking a transfer. Did he decide yet? I don't think he decided yet.
No, so it's basically like open to the highest bidder.
Yep.
He's basically taking his NIL rights on the open market. He was the number 1 overall recruit in 2020. And he hasn't ruled out a return to Oklahoma. However, this is kind of what I wanted to get into with this a little bit, or was hoping. Dillon Gabriel, who was the UCF transfer to UCLA, has reneged on that and is following Jeff Lebby, his former offensive coordinator at UCF, to Oklahoma. So I don't think that Caleb Williams will be returning to Oklahoma. But this has really led to a discussion about, is NIL kind of ruining college football? Is the transfer portal kind of ruining college football? Opt-outs, are they ruining bowl games? And I would kind of like to get into that a little bit, and we kind of will, I think, with the Rose Bowl. But really, we got free agency in college football. As long as we don't overdo it and we make this constructive, I like I kind of like the ability for players to move once without penalty. But, Caleb Williams will make any team he decides to join a contender. Imagine if he ends up at Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia's one of the names that they have thrown out there. I've seen USC, possibly UCLA, also another name out there as well as Georgia.
Now that Dillon Gabriel isn't going, what if they just swapped, right? Chip Kelly with Caleb Williams. Oof, that would be a tandem.
So this is one of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 big name college football transfers, including obviously Dillon Gabriel, Caleb Williams, Quinn Ewers, Keaton Solvis?
Keaton Slovis.
Yeah.
Where is he going?
He's going from USC to Pitt. And Max Johnson went from LSU to Texas A&M after Zach.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's a big get for
Texas A&M.
For Texas A&M, and
Jimbo Fisher. So just big news there. I think that's really all that I want to hit, besides the fact, just to wrap it up, as we're going to go into the Bowls breakdowns here. The SEC's really good at football. Both blowouts from Alabama to Cincinnati, but Cincinnati looked a lot better than our Michigan Wolverines, who ended up losing basically 31-3. It was technically 31-11, 34-11, something like that.
It was 34-11 with a late touchdown.
So
a couple things I would like to do. Are we ready to go?
We're ready to go right in. There really wasn't much else that I wanted to hit on in that segment.
So I would like to touch on a few things. Number one, Georgia everyone has said the same thing.
Sorry. Texas A&M did his Zach Calzada 2 hours ago announced he will be transferring to Auburn as well. He announced that. So just quick update there.
Again, another high-profile quarterback move. And again, there are other kids moving at other positions. It's just quarterback is the most important position on the football field, so it's going to be covered the most.
100%.
Everyone has had the same thought, from ESPN to Fox Sports to 4th and 1 podcast. Georgia fooled us with the loss to Alabama. What happened in the SEC championship game clearly was an outlier. There was nothing wrong with Georgia, and the loss to Alabama only made them angry. And Michigan, I don't want to say came out with the attitude of they were just happy to be there, but let's be honest, Michigan was just happy to be there. And it's good. Everyone, my friends and parents and people were texting me, "Are you doing okay, with the Georgia blowout, And I'm like, listen, I expected Michigan to be getting blown out in the college football playoff by Alabama or Georgia or some SEC or Clemson. or Oklahoma 3 years ago. So this is they have finally reached where they should have been. Listen, this opens whole new avenues. This helped recruiting immediately. They went from low teens into it pole vaulted them in the top 10. They flipped a huge high-profile athletes, high school athletes. Things are only going to look up for Michigan. Georgia just clearly wanted this game more. They want the rematch with Bama. They got the rematch with Bama. But it was once Michigan had back-to-back turnovers on 3 straight snaps, it was over. Cade, who basically played turnover-free all year, threw an interception, and then an interception that wasn't his fault, and then Blake Corum, who hasn't fumbled all year, fumbled. So it was, for Michigan, it was what can go wrong, did go wrong. Aiden Hutchinson had 1 tackle for loss, really wasn't much of a factor even, so his season kind of comes to a close, but he'll be the first overall pick, more than likely, in April's NFL draft to the Detroit Lions. But did you hear about Jim Harbaugh?
I was literally just scrolling through. I was trying to find the other big-name school that Caleb Williams was thinking of going to. Miami was the other one that has been rumored. Now that Mario Cristobal's there.
Yeah.
Rumors are circulating around Jim Harbaugh that he may be tempted to leave the Wolverines per the Atlantic. Raiders head coaching job might be tough for him to say no given the ties to the organization.
Yeah, so he would have all the power, or some of the power. That team is set up right now to play the kind of offensive ball he wants to play, which is you pound the rock and you take play action shots, stuff we have talked about all year. Very good offensive line, good running back, good veteran quarterback if they decide to keep Derek Carr. Good kind of group of wide receivers, great tight end. I want to tell you a story. I had one of the surgeons at work come in, and just picture a frat boy who became a surgeon. He comes walking in and he goes, "I hear Harbaugh's going to the Raiders." I go, "Well, that's the rumor," because I'm eating lunch. And he goes, "Well, aren't you sad? I thought he was your savior." And I go, "He is, and he saved us." And he goes, "Didn't you just get blown out by Georgia in the college football playoff?" And I look at him, and he's an alum from Notre Dame, and I go, "What happened to Notre Dame the last 2 times they were in the college football playoff?" And he goes, "They got blown out by Alabama and Clemson." I go, "Exactly." The point for him, in order to save Michigan, was to beat Ohio State and win a Big Ten championship and get this thing rolling. Now, I will say this. I am now kind of on board. I would not like him to leave. But if he is, at the press conference where he announces his transition from Michigan to Vegas, if that's where he's going. If Ward Manuel, the AD, does not step up to the podium and immediately go, "Jim Harbaugh, we wish you luck. We would like to announce the next head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Josh Gaddis." Or we would like to announce the next head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Mike Hart. Then I am taking a group of guys with baseball bats to Ward Manuel's office in Ann Arbor, and I am breaking everything in his office except for him, because the only logical candidate is Josh Gaddis. He just won Assistant of the Year. He's going to get a head coaching gig next year. He would be the first, I believe he would be the first African-American head coach in the history of the University of Michigan.
Correct.
The university that has the most wins all time. The probably most storied program in the history of college football. A program that taught Notre Dame, who just got their first African-American head coach in Marcus Freeman. They taught them football way back when, in the 1800s, whenever that was. You would do so much for the program. He's a great recruiter. Again, I don't know how the kids would react to him, but if it's not him or Mike Hart, who knows the program and can recruit at a high level, Ward Manuel, you don't know what you're doing. If you have to have a search, right now you have all the momentum. Don't break it. Clearly, this staff has a connection with these kids. The same kids, Blake Corum, Andrell Anthony, J.J. McCarthy, Donovan Edwards, who stayed on the field and watched Georgia ceremony, their crowning ceremony to win the Orange Bowl as motivation for next year. All of these freshmen and sophomores who are going to be juniors and sophomore who are the face of your program for the next couple of years. You don't break that. You got a great staff going. You elevate the next man up, and that's Josh Gaddish, who's with Harbaugh. He knows how to call plays. He knows how to win. And you save yourself an office that you would have to refurnish because me and some boys are going to come up there with baseball bats and destroy everything in it. Okay? That's just what's going to happen.
That's fair.
And now Ward Manuel's going to,
So,
if that does happen, he's going to, point to this podcast.
Currently, Michigan's recruiting class, and we still have the February recruiting class, but the main recruiting class has come in through the November recruiting class. Currently, Michigan's ranked 9th overall, according to 24/7 Sports. Surprisingly, Texas A&M has the highest recruiting class right now.
They were like 15 or 16 before they beat Ohio State and won the Big Ten championship game.
Right now, they are third in the Big Ten in recruiting class. Ohio State at 4 and Penn State at 6. I'm just going to echo everything Micaiah said. I think that would be the best transition. I think you want an offensive-minded head coach. I honestly don't necessarily – we heard this last year when we thought that they wouldn't.
We've heard it every year.
It doesn't necessarily make sense. I feel like, there's Harbaugh chances of returning to the NFL. This is, again, on 24/7. I don't think it's going to happen. It doesn't necessarily make sense. But
what kind of bothers me is that when this has happened in the past, he's come out the next week or even the next day and said, this is absolutely, utterly false. Like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And the fact he hasn't come out and disputed it, he might be listening to offers. But if I had to...
In this job market, you have to listen to offers.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a good thing going, why... mess it up?
I mean, 100%, but I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to give this another week of traction and see where we're at next week. We'll definitely hear something next week. Remember, this week's Week 18 in the NFL. A lot of the playoff picture has cleared up. We're probably going to get to that more next week. It will just be a light week this week. But, again, this week is Week 18 in the NFL, which means next week we kind of see where it's at and you get the first round of firings, which... Maybe
the Raiders' job is already open.
Right, besides the Raiders' job. But you're going to get, you have Aaron Rodgers moving this year. You have, which is the biggest name in free agency. I'm sure there are a bunch of other big names in free agency, people who have to get re-signed, where people are at. The playoff picture still has to shake up because we still have an expanded playoff. So imagine
if the Raiders... sent Derek Carr and some draft picks to the Packers for Aaron Rodgers, and then they get Jim Harbaugh, and now you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes and what's his face in Los Angeles.
If I'm Aaron Rodgers, there's only one place I'm going, and that's to the Steelers in the AFC East. It's the only team. It's really
it's the AFC North. Actually?
Are they in the North? Are you sure?
Yes, they are.
You really only have to compete with one, young guy, and that's about it. So it's one of those things. We're gonna keep an eye on it, to say the least, and we'll move on from there. Micaiah, what are your thoughts on the Natty? When is that exactly?
The Natty is January 10th.
Okay,
so
to be fair, guys, I passed out for like an hour and a half, maybe 2.
Yeah,
that evening, because that's kind of
where I was this at. Really is the episode to preview the Natty. So when this comes out tomorrow morning, and at least that's the plan, at 6 a.m., it'll be Friday.
Yeah,
and it comes out Monday. Everybody, the Natty is at like 8:30 on Monday.
On Monday. Okay.
My preview of the Natty is very similar to the SEC championship game, which is it's a clash of two styles. Alabama has a very good run defense. Will Anderson wreaks havoc. Their back end's a little Georgia's kind of the same, the number one rush defense in the nation. And their back end's a little But one side has the Heisman Trophy winner in Bryce Young and Jamison Williams, and the other side has Stetson Bennett. Now, I'm not saying Stetson Bennett is a bad quarterback. Listen, Stetson Bennett ripped apart in the Michigan secondary, which all season had played decently well, and even in the second half of that game played decently well. But it was it was Bryce Young to Jamison Williams over and over and over again in the SEC title game. Alabama just looked like they wanted it more in the SEC title game. Georgia's a 3-point favorite. I want to take Georgia as a 3-point favorite in this game because now they're pissed off. Because every time Georgia has gotten beat by one of these big-time schools, whether that be LSU or Bama or some team that they can't get over in their own conference, they've never had a rematch with them. And now you get a rematch not even like a month, 5 weeks later, you get a rematch. And so you get all this pent-up energy and you get to go hit them in the mouth. Now, Alabama, listen, Brian Robinson, who ran for over 200 yards in their playoff game against Cincinnati, basically beat Cincinnati by himself, had more yards than Cincinnati did just by himself, is now more of a little bit of a threat. I don't think he's not going to run for 200 yards. He probably won't even run for 100 yards on Georgia's defense. But now you got to respect Alabama's running game. And Alabama is without John Mechie, the wide receiver who was even better than Jamison Williams. He had almost 100 catches and 1,500 yards on the year. He was basically an extension of the running game because really up until the point of the college football playoff, Alabama has not been able to run the football all year. Their offensive line was trash until the SEC championship game. So listen, the preview's the same. It's who wants it more. Bama's knowing that Georgia's coming out swinging. Georgia's coming out absolutely firing. And it's, can the Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young, deal with this now irritated, frustrated, and angry Georgia Bulldog defense? And can Stetson Bennett not turn the ball over against a revitalized Alabama defense?
This is probably the first time that Alabama has been ranked an underdog since the LSU semifinal.
In the Natty?
Well, in the Natty, since they've been in it, probably. And in the CFP, since the semifinal loss to LSU.
They never lost to LSU in the semifinal.
Didn't they lose to LSU in the semifinal a couple years ago?
No, that was Oklahoma. Was Oklahoma, okay. And then LSU beat Clemson.
By the way,
nerd.
Sorry, I'm glad you know these things. I was looking at the coaching carousel. By the way, DJ Durkin is going from Ole Miss to Texas A&M. Thought you'd find that interesting. And
why?
I don't know. And
probably money. Hit your money soundbite. That's where you hit the money.
Money, please.
Listen, A&M they got old oil money, and they'll just pay whatever to whoever to come and win the Natty.
They have the second biggest stadium. The biggest stadium in Kyle Field. Dear
Kyle
Lord,
Field
is the biggest stadium in Texas.
Yep.
And I think the third largest in the United States.
Yeah,
if
behind
not,
Beaver
and Michigan.
And,
also, we lost Sean Nua. He's headed to USC.
He's headed to USC to be a D-line coach. Listen, Michigan's D-line has never been the same since Mattis left. I think his name was Don Mattis. Something. He came from the Ravens originally with Brady Hoke. Our D-line has never been the same. He only took over the D-line this year, and it was okay. Like, besides the two pass rushers, the D-line had been okay. Like, nothing special. So, I mean, listen, he was a great coach. The D-line was okay this year outside of Aiden and Ajabo, who were excellent. But D-line coaches, as I told my friend, are a dime a dozen. I don't really fear that loss too much. But he's going to USC with Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
I got hair in my keyboard.
Just found that interesting. Okay, so you preview. Who you picking?
Listen, I'm going with Georgia. Georgia's going to be angry, but the loss to John Mechie for Alabama is huge because a lot of their damage in that game before Mechie went out was done while he was in the game. Their lead basically ballooned when Mechie was in the game, and then it kind of went over the top with Jamison Williams. But the loss of him on a Georgia secondary that is kind of iffy. Now Kirby only has to kind of circle in on one guy he's got to cover. A very good guy he has to cover, and Jamison Williams, a very fast guy he has to cover. But it's going to take the young Alabama receiving core has to step up. But this secondary is a lot worse. Georgia's secondary is a lot worse than Cincinnati's secondary, but they're not going to be able to push since they didn't challenge Cincinnati's secondary. They pushed Cincinnati's front seven around. Alabama did in their playoff game. They're not going to be able to do that with Georgia. They didn't even do that with Georgia in the SEC title game. It was Bryce Young to Jamison Williams and John Mechie over and over and over and over again. They're not going to be able to do that. Stetson's going to play a better game. The defense isn't going to give up 41 points. It's a 27-24 type game, 30-24 type game. I think Georgia finally gets it done, and it's either going to go one or two ways. It's going to be close, or it's going to be an absolute rout in Georgia's favor. There's no in between, in my opinion. So I like Georgia minus the 3 points there.
It's at 2.5 right now. So
then Georgia minus the 2.5, 100%.
And I didn't do the math. Over under is 52 right now.
Over under of 52. So you're looking at 26. So you're looking at 28, 24 type of. Wait, it's 52? Yeah, 28, 24. I'd stay away from that, but I would probably also take the under.
Okay.
I'm thinking this is more of a 24-21 type game.
Okay, sorry. I found a very interesting article. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Here's the interesting article I found. Do you remember that mattress guy who bet on the Super Bowl a bunch of
and he bet on the Astros
or something like that? Yeah.
He bet the largest amount on the Astros,
for Super Bowl 55. He placed a $3.4 million bet on the underdog Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, and then won, and he did it with the Astros again in the World Series, and they lost.
Yeah, he lost $1 million. He placed a bet on the Clemson Tide at plus 125. So he placed a $1.2 million bet on the Alabama Crimson Tide. He would only win 1.5, so he'd make $300,000.
If Georgia and Bama didn't meet in the SEC title game, or if they met in the SEC title game, and it was a close Alabama win, and Georgia looked interested in the SEC title game, I would pick Bama because it's Nick Saban and it's Bryce Young.
Right.
The fact that they absolutely got their doors blown off in the SEC title game, it's just hard for me to fathom that Georgia's not just going to want this more. You know?
No, I thought you made a good pick. To be honest, I lost interest after Michigan showed that they were just kind of done till next year. And here's my problem that I'm having. If I'm gonna,
I also gotta. So you talk. I gotta lock in this Georgia minus 2.5 right now because that's an awesome line. So you go ahead.
He's gonna lock that in. Here's the problem that I'm having. I'm not sure if I want to say if it's too much money. If my thesis is it's too much money in college football, or what the case is, or if I'm just a salty Northeastern boy, Mid-Atlantic boy, whatever you want to call it. I don't like that this is what feels like the 10th year in a row that it's two SEC teams in the playoff again. Now, I get that it's in the championship. Now, I get it. We have a playoff. We have a 4-team. Nick Saban can go suck a D because he says he thinks it's stupid to expand it to 12.
Blah, blah, blah.
He's absolutely
no one
wrong.
cares.
Blah, blah, blah.
Come after me.
Oh.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Oh. Oh.
Oh.
It took me by... I was so locked in that it took me by surprise. Oh.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm just annoyed. And I don't have any legit reason other than my feelings are I'm annoyed that it's two teams again. And not that they're both not deserving. I think it's hard to not put Alabama in. I think this has probably been one of the clearest cut decisions as far as who to put in. But I don't know if it's the talent gap. It's not the coaching gap. No offense, and I'm going to ask you a question about that. Coming back to that in a little bit.
Yep, I am listening. Unlike you, I can listen to sports and do and bet on them at the same time. Yeah.
I'm just annoyed, and I wanted to voice that annoyance because.
Well, you're not alone. By the way, you can get Georgia winning by 1 to 13 points plus 160 right now.
Make that bet. Not you. I'm saying the people listening. If you make that bet, you can make that bet. You can do whatever you want.
Well, I'm also making that bet.
Okay.
Because
here's my 3-game parlay. Okay.
Okay. Do it. Hit me with it.
In this, Alabama to score first, Georgia 1 to 13. And then I don't know if I'm actually allowed to make these bets. So Alabama to score first, Georgia 1 to 13 win, and then Georgia minus 2.5. You can't make those bets together.
On FanDuel, it's actually Georgia minus 3.
Oh, interesting.
So I will just take Georgia outright and then take them
1 to 13.
1 to 13, and I'm not sure. I'm looking over the same game parlays. You can't.
You're not going to be
able to score.
Yeah,
who to score first?
You're not. They're not going to allow that. So
why not? They should. They allow it in every other sport.
No. I'm just saying they're not going to allow that. Allow those bets together.
You are not alone in. Go away. You are not alone in being frustrated with having Georgia and Alabama in the championship over and over and over again. And the 4-team playoff was supposed to make it harder for the SEC to win titles because at the point they put the 4-team playoff in, their conference had won like 9 straight national title games. But I'm going to make the point that I will make to everyone, and now that and it was easier for me to make this statement before Michigan was in the playoff, but I'm still going to make it because I consider myself a level-headed analyzer. I made that word up right there. Analyzer of college football. If you don't like it, go recruit better. The problem is you have to go get the freaks on the defensive line. You have to go get the Jordan Davises and the Will Anderson, and you have to pull them out of Alabama and Georgia or wherever Jordan Davis and Will Anderson are from, and you have to bring them north. Now, a lot of things are against you. The GPA requirement, the acceptance rate, and the GPA requirements for. First and foremost, Michigan are way higher than any of the other 3 teams that were in the playoff.
I think probably maybe only the Pac-12, but the Big Ten probably has the lowest average acceptance rate of the Power 5.
Listen, so a lot of things are against you, but listen, Notre Dame can go get absolute studs. Okay, it is very doable to do, so you can either go recruit better, or you have to outcoach them, and you can't make mistakes, and you have to be better at the thing that SEC teams are worse at, which are special teams, offensive line play, and wait for it, tight ends. If you want to go and coaching, so the Big Ten has better coaches than the SEC. That is without a doubt. It's Kirby, Saban, and then everybody else in the SEC. Maybe Jimbo. You want to throw Jimbo. Maybe Lane Kiffin. The SEC is getting better. But listen, a lot of people would take Harbaugh, Day. They would take Paul Chryst from Wisconsin. They would take the guy from Northwestern who escapes my name, Pat Fitzgerald. They would take PJ Fleck. Okay, they would take Mel Tucker before the third option in the SEC. Again, setting aside. So you have to outcoach them. You have to be better at the tight end. You have to be better at the offensive line. And you have to be better on special teams to beat them. Or you have to go down and pluck them out.
The
listen,
Pac-12 does have the lowest acceptance rates average with a 45.5.
And again, this is why they're not in the college football play.
The Big 12 isn't. The Big 10 isn't that much far behind them with 59.
Yeah, so I understand everyone's frustration, but it's up to you and your program to go beat them. Another way to do it is your alumni has to give money. Money. Michigan's alumni base has one of the biggest alumni base, gives a whole bunch of money. Ohio State has the second biggest alumni base, gives a whole bunch of money. Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M. Listen, you got Oregon, you got USC's boosters are just waiting for them to get good. UCLA, okay, so I understand the frustration, but let's be honest. When we don't have an all SEC national title game, Simeon,
yes,
you get blowouts. I mean, look at it. You get blowouts every time you don't. When was the last good national title game?
Well, only the LSU one because they threw for like 15,000 touchdowns.
What? No, I'm talking about good where both sides. It was competitive national title game.
That wasn't defensive heavy.
No, that was a good national title. We had some defense, had some offense.
Yeah,
had
that's
a
what
little
I'm
bit
saying. It wasn't the 3-0 off Auburn LSU. I don't remember.
It was the last time these two teams met in the Natty.
Okay.
It was 18 Tua to Devontae Smith to win the game. That was the last time.
Okay.
Every other time, it's been a blowout. Ohio State got blown out. Clemson got blown out. Now, Alabama and Clemson in their back-to-back matchup played two tremendously good games, so I will give them that. And then Clemson did blow out Alabama one time. But outside of that, every other team that meets an SEC foe gets blown out. Ohio State the one year met Florida in 2007 and got trounced by a 2-loss Florida team. Ohio State met LSU, a 2-loss LSU team, and got trounced by LSU. The mismatches are there, and so you're going to have to out-recruit them and be better at the things that conference is poor at. And again, I'm not going to say it again.
That's fair. Speaking of 2007... kind of 2008 Florida Gators, you hear that they might actually make a 30 for 30 on that team?
That would be an excellent 30 for 30. The personalities
what is it,
they had...
like a third of their roster, or is currently in jail?
Well, so you got Aaron Hernandez.
No, of their roster, Micaiah.
Oh, that I don't know. That I don't know. But the personalities, you had Urban Meyer. Everyone knows what Urban Meyer's been about this year and has come out. You have Tim Tebow. You have Aaron Hernandez.
Mm-hmm.
You had Hayden. He's a cornerback for the Steelers right now.
Yep.
You had Percy Harvin.
Yep.
You had the Pouncey twins.
Yep.
You had some people on the defensive line. I'm forgetting. You had all these personalities that all of a sudden just won this natty and kind of catapulted Urban Meyer into known stardom, I should say.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at. I was looking at their Percy Harvey, Jeffrey Dumps, Brandon Frazier.
Listen, looking back on it, that team was loaded.
Cornelius Ingram, Cam Newton. I forgot Cam Newton was technically on that time. Riley Cooper was on that too.
Cooper, who used the N-word when he was in the NFL.
Yep. I'm just looking at all these different Emmanuel Moody, Holiday, James.
It's also a shame, going back to kind of the New Year's Six and the bowl games, that we had all these opt-outs. If you look at the Peach Bowl, Kenny Pickett opted out. And Michigan State went with their second string and got the lead early, and then the second string broke his collarbone and was out. So the third string came in, and they had no plays, basically, for the third string. They weren't expecting him to play at all. And so it was kind of a defensive game. Well, Michigan State was down 11, I think, entering the fourth quarter, came back, won the game. If Kenny Pickett plays, I understand Kenny Pickett was protecting his money and his first-round talent, because that could have been him breaking his collarbone. But they would have won the Peach Bowl. Like, I kind of feel bad for all the kids who aren't able to opt out. Because then when, again, a quarterback opts out, or, mainly a quarterback, the star of your team, when they opt out to protect their draft stock, again, that's fine. You got to do what's best for you and yours. I will never see that type of money in my life, more than likely. But, think about the nose tackle for Pittsburgh, who probably will never... I don't know the nose tackle for Pittsburgh, but the nose tackle for Pittsburgh might not even sniff an NFL draft camp or a draft board. And, that was his one shot to win the Peach Bowl. And they would have won if Kenny Pickett was there, but he wasn't. And then, but then you have the other side, Matt Corral. He plays and breaks his ankle, and now his draft stock kind of plummets a little bit, and people are like, well, that's why you don't play. Yeah, but that's kind of what you sign up for.
41 members of their roster were arrested.
Oh, that's a lot.
41 of 120. More than 33% of their...
That's a lot. That would be an excellent...
Either were arrested or have been arrested since then.
Wow. So anyway, Pittsburgh lost a heartbreaker to Michigan State. Michigan State, good for you and Mel Tucker. But again, Kenneth Walker was out. And if Kenneth Walker plays against Pittsburgh, they win that game easily. Okay? Peyton Thorne has a game of his life. Oklahoma State and Notre Dame, the only opt-out there was Brian Kelly, who took a job to LSU because of the early signing period. You have to leave before the New Year's Six bowl games. Notre Dame blows a 28-point first-half lead to Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State just ran a whole bunch of plays. Spencer Sanders played turnover-free. They were able to run the ball, and they came all the way back. So I did not do well in my New Year's Six games. Baylor did end up beating Ole Miss in, again, once Matt Corral went out, on the second series of the game. That... You knew who was going to win that game, and it was Baylor, 21-7. And then the bowl game of the year clearly was the Rose Bowl. Did you watch any of the Rose Bowl?
I watched basically none of these bowl games.
Missed an epic game.
Yeah, there were a couple of those. I heard that. I saw that.
First and foremost, the Natty needs to be held at the Rose Bowl every single year.
That's fair.
Change my mind, except you won't.
You won't.
You won't. There's no better setting. You put it on at 7:30 on a Monday in January.
That's a 4:30 kickoff for all of those.
The scene of the sun setting over the mountains at the Rose Bowl. The turf that is the most perfect turf in the history of turf.
Okay.
Painted perfectly. And it's something about that setting that produces the most magical environment in the history of college football.
This is very weird. Wrap it up here, buddy.
You know what? Is it? Are you turned on? A little bit?
No, I think you're turned on a little bit.
I am turned on thinking about
the fuck you are.
You need to figure yourself out, sir.
I am turned on a little bit by thinking about the Rose Bowl at night. Anyway,
listen, there were 42 points scored in the second quarter. Let's talk about the game.
It was amazing. So it was basically C.J. Stroud, just Jackson, Smith, and Jigba all game long. Utah
15
secondary,
wrecks, 347 yards, and 3 TDs.
It was an Ohio State single game record, an Ohio State bowl game record, and a Rose Bowl record. I'm surprised it wasn't an NCAA record. Listen, Ohio State, I didn't realize Utah's secondary was so depleted. They had a running back at one point, Utah did, playing corner, covering Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yikes.
And it just wasn't good. I don't know why Kyle Whittingham, the head coach of Utah, didn't have just two people following Jackson Smith and Jigba around the entire time, because he was just torching them. There were opt-outs for Ohio State as well. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, plus some offensive line. Then there was COVID issues for Ohio State. But they got 2 first-round draft picks at wide receiver this year, next year, and the year after. They are the new wide receiver U. Sorry, LSU, you're just not it anymore. It is Ohio State from now on, because they just turned this thing over. It was amazing to watch. Utah, this was Utah's Rose Bowl. Utah's goal this year was to make I said Rose Bowl, I meant Super Bowl. To make the Rose Bowl and to win it. And they made it. They came out firing. Listen, Brendan Covey was awesome. Returned a kick for a touchdown. Took a sweep for a touchdown. It was amazing to watch. Very little defense. At one point, it was 4 touchdowns were scored in 2 minutes and 35 seconds of game time. It was just awesome.
They have to do well in the NFL if they want to be wide receiver U. That's what I wanted to say. Also, Utah found a running back. Your leading rusher was your quarterback. So don't be the Buffalo Bills.
He took a 60. He took a 65. I mean, Ohio State couldn't tackle at one point, but then in the second half, listen, Ryan Day screamed some profanity and something else that motivated this team, the defense especially at halftime, because they stepped up.
White man, no. Well, what does security do about it?
Nothing.
Typical!
Is that what Ryan yelled at it? You're being beat by a
white man. Yeah, absolutely.
No!
That's exactly what it was. It was that, and his name was Brendan Covey, and he was picking them apart and their quarterback. Listen, it was an amazing game. Ohio State's defense in the second half really stepped up and got Utah off the field time and time again. They were able to come back from 14 down in the second half to win the football game, just on a last-second field goal. And Utah just looked tired at the end and kind of burnt out. But it was just the game. It was the game of the year, and I understand it was 2022 at that point, but I'm talking about the 2021 season. Yeah. It was the game of the year.
Okay, you done drooling over yourself?
You know what? I wish you were on my level of just getting an absolute erection from...
For grass? For grass.
For grass,
For
yes.
Californian grass.
Yes.
And we're not talking weed, Mom.
No,
we're talking actual grass.
I mean, I would also get an erection for that as well.
No one cares!
Okay?
But
maybe you get erection from the California grass.
No, 100%. From the environment, I actually got the erection from the sun, picturing the sun setting over the mountains that the stadium looks out on.
How dare you?
So, listen,
I'd like to take this chance to apologize.
I'm not apologizing.
To absolutely nobody.
No.
The double champ does what the he wants.
Yep. You got that 100% right.
I know I did. Before we wrap this up, okay, you have a note here about Kyrie Irving, who played his first game. Will not be playing, I think, tonight against the...
Home games. No, he's not allowed to play home games because he's not vaccinated.
Oh,
Again,
so he was
own.
able to play in Indiana, but...
He's able to play all road games.
Okay. So
the only places he's not allowed to play, I believe, are California and New York.
Okay, so he's out tonight because I think they're home. If it is, I'm checking if it's tonight. Yeah, no, tomorrow versus the Bucks at 7:30 on ESPN. He went. This was his first game that he played against the Pacers. Played 32 minutes, went 9 for 17 from the floor, missed both 3-pointers. He had 4 assists and 3 steals, a block, and how many rebounds? Oh, only 3 rebounds. Was pretty productive, 22 points.
Yeah, listen, he the Nets are going to be exactly what the Nets were last year when the big threw in Harden, Irving, and Durant were playing. Unstoppable offensively, very little defense. The Pacers scored 124 points last night. They lost by 5, but they scored
121 points. They lost by 8.
Oh, well, okay, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
But everyone's like, well, does this change? The Nets are the clear favorite. No, they're not the clear favorites, because even if they have if they have home court advantage, that means they play 4 on their home floor, and Irving's not even allowed to be in the building. You have to have proof of vaccination to get into the Barclays Center. He's not allowed to be anywhere close to that.
Yeah, Patty Mills is their backup point guard. Pretty good backup point guard, if I do say myself. Known for distributing. He did 35 minutes, 2 for 6. Very less productive. However, he was plus 10 on the efficiency rating. So
but
he clearly
it's going to
distributes.
be all offense, no defense.
He clearly distributed the ball.
Is this how you feel at the end of every pod? Instead of me, all stressed out and just I'm ready to go for like another hour, man.
Listen, if we
fun.
had more to talk about, 100%.
I like it. Oh, you want more? I'll listen. I can talk about college football all day, all night, and again on Tuesday, twice on Tuesday, or Thursday, as it were.
Well, yeah, Thursday as it is. Listen, if they play, who's the favorite in the West? Before we can go back to talk about whatever the F you want.
The Western Conference, as in basketball.
White man.
I just like playing that one. Golden State Warriors. They're currently tied with the Suns. So, listen.
They lost last night.
Okay. I'm not paying attention yet. I had to get through college football. Now we're in January. I have stuff that I got to do.
You don't have anything you have to do.
You know what?
Let's be honest.
Lies.
You just got married. We all know the thing you have to do.
Well.
And she's a white girl.
No! So it's one of those things that it would be interesting, because if you played a California team against a New York team, that means Kyrie Irving can't play at all.
Yeah, if it was the Warriors and the Nets, he couldn't play at all. You are 100% correct.
And the Lakers are sitting at 6 right now.
Well, the Lakers aren't going to make the Western Conference Finals, and you can ask Jeb about that.
We'll have him back
and
on,
he would
I'm sure.
tell you the
We'll talk about
exact same thing.
Makai, what's your as the season comes to the close, this is technically our first pod after New Year's.
Yes, it is. You're right. So this is technically season 3, you said, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we go by years, this is the technically the 3rd calendar year we've done this podcast.
Yep.
So as we reminisce, what is your biggest takeaway from the 2021 college football season? And what is your biggest thing you're looking forward to, or thing that's you think is going to affect the 2022?
Bro, you are just killing it as host today. I mean, you're doing a so much better job than I could ever do.
This is why I thought it was a good idea, number 1. And number 2, you wanted to clearly talk more, so I thought I would at least set you up with something, and then I can go do whatever I want.
Well, and how am I doing? Like, is this only a one-way street? Am I only the one giving the compliments?
You're talking a lot more than I thought you were going to, but I'm not mad about it. So,
am I talking more free, more open? Am I like a desert flower flowing in the wind?
I think that's a weird mind image, but I feel like, yes, you're definitely less stressed because you don't feel like you have to carry everything.
Sure.
Even though you are carrying everything because you're not letting me talk.
Well, but you don't say anything interesting.
Well, to be fair, it was just one of those things that I was so underwhelmed by the college football playoff this year after being so hyped for it. I thought Cincinnati would show up. I thought Michigan would show up. Neither team decided to travel to their respective stadiums. So, also, can we get some playoff bowl games up north? I am going to call a little bit of sus when we have most of our playoff bowl games in the South.
Well, it is
and I
kind
get
of
why,
hard
because
when
that's where
Ann
all the nice
Arbor
stadiums
is
are.
20 degrees. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not. But Lucas Oil Stadium's indoor. USA
Well, that's where the Natty is.
USA, yeah, this is where the Natty is. USA Bank Stadium is indoor. Freaking have it at Lambeau Field. Half the people are going to be playing at it.
I mean, they played at Bronx. They were supposed to play at Fenway, but some of the games got canceled because of COVID.
Bowl games. I'm talking about the playoff bowl games. I get it. The Orange Bowl has to be in Miami because that's where the Orange Bowl is. It's kind of like the Rose Bowl has to be in the Rose Bowl. But no offense, those are besides the Cotton Bowl, there are no other stadium that has to be locked into a stadium.
Well, except the fact that when they signed the contract and made the format, it was rotating in between the 6 bowl games down south.
But that's only because the All-State Sugar Bowl is tied to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta.
Yeah,
There's no reason that the All-State Sugar Bowl.
So you want 1 year for the college football playoff to be rotated to the Pinstripe Bowl and be played in Yankee Stadium.
No. I want it to be the All-State Sugar Bowl in USA Bank Stadium in Minneapolis.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't have anything wrong with that. I don't see a problem with that. The problem people will say, oh, because it's the cold and blah blah blah.
It's an indoor stadium.
Well, and it would make.
Gosh darn it! It's a
You're fired up
freaking
about
indoor stadium. If there's 2 things I heard about, it's stadiums and airports. It's the U.S. It's the only northern. It's the most northern. Freaking the Canadians play outside.
Yeah, no, but again, football is now dominated by which conference? The Southern Conference, and their players can't play in the cold.
No, that's because it's where all the freaking money is.
No,
and that's where all the new stadiums
their players
are.
can't. They can't. Well, they could play
it's
at Ford Field.
It's not going to be cold.
They could play
it's
at Ford
going to be
Field.
65 degrees in the stadium. You're giving me.
I agree.
Okay, sorry. You're giving me bullshit.
I'm telling you the arguments that you're going to get.
No, the arguments that I'm going to get is because it's where all the money is. Listen, I know how this works. It's where all the money is. They've signed contracts to stay in the Mercedes-Benz arena or whatever the flip they're calling it now. And
I think it's the Caesar Sportsbook, right?
No, that's where that's the Superdome. Now the new name of the Superdome.
Oh, okay.
Mercedes-Benz let the license.
That's where the Cotton Bowl was played. That's where the Sugar Bowl was played.
The Cotton Bowl was played at the Cotton Bowl. No, the Sugar Bowl was played.
No, the Cotton Bowl was played
at
AT&T.
But wait, there's a stadium called the Cotton Bowl, is there not?
Yes, that's the stadium where the Red River Rivalry is played.
Right, but shouldn't the Cotton Bowl be held at the Cotton Bowl?
That is correct.
We can't go play at SoFi Stadium and call it the Rose Bowl. I would literally cut somebody. Which, if by chance you go to SoFi Stadium, high chance of possibility because you're in LA with all those homeless people. So,
well, actually, no, because you're outside of LA.
I just
right?
kicked SoFi.
Aren't you in Burbank?
No, that's in Carson. You're right. I'm sorry, I lied to you.
Yeah, you're in Burbank.
No,
man.
Carson is it in Burbank? I'll look that up.
It's in the hoity-toity part of Los Angeles.
Burbank is not hoity-toity.
Well, that's where wherever the stadium is.
The stadium is in Inglewood.
Inglewood, that's right.
Which is not known for being hoity-toity.
Oh, it's not? Well, it's from where Justin Timberlake was from. So I don't... Listen, geometry is not my strong suit, okay?
Okay, so to be fair, it is where... where did the LA Lakers play in the 80s? The Forum. It's right across the street from the Forum. And there's
is where the Clipper, Steve Ballmer, just bought... not just, many years ago, just bought the Forum. They're going to redo it and put the Clippers there.
Oh, good.
So the Clippers are now going to play in
I'm trying to remember where the fudge Compton is. Because it's really close to Inglewood, if I'm remembering correctly.
It's where...
It's like...
It's where, what's his face, Ice Cube came out of.
I know what Compton is.
It's where NWA came out.
It's where Kendrick Lamar is from as well.
Yeah, it's where NWA.
It's across the 110 and the
that
105. Okay,
that rap band.
Are you kidding
that
me?
rap band came from. Yeah.
Okay, I also have.
It's where they came out. It's where they came out of.
Answer the question.
Have you ever heard that song Straight Outta Compton? See,
It's
now
also
I can
not
give
the
you
name of the song.
The name of the song is Straight Outta Compton.
No, that is Straight Outta Compton. I'm thinking of F the Police.
That song's called F the Police.
I like how I swore on that one. Anyway, answer your question, and then I have a question for you about Oakland.
Answer your question.
Answer.
Okay, so my main takeaway from
and neither
the
can be Michigan related, by the way.
Neither can be Michigan related, but they sort of will be. So, my 2021 takeaway was it's easy to win football games.
Killing me, Smalls.
When you run.
Oh my
the football.
gosh, this again. I'm so bored of this. Like, you're right. Move on. Come up with something new for once.
You're the one who asked me the question.
You had one job. Just the one.
Be interesting for once.
Be
We know.
What do you want me to say?
Something different than you win games. You've been saying that all year. We know.
Yes.
That you win games when you run the ball.
Okay, fine. Do you want me to say defense is still king?
Yeah, that would be so much more interesting.
But I've been saying that all year, too.
No, you haven't been.
Yes,
why,
I have.
Why is defense still king, Micaiah? No, you've been saying run the ball. You've been offense-focused because you're an offensive-focused guy. So tell me why defense is still king. And you don't even have to make that answer interesting. Just tell me why defense is king.
Okay, so defense is still king. You had a historically great defense at Georgia in Athens. You had one of the best seasons put together by Will Anderson in terms of sacks and tackle for losses. You had the Heisman runner-up was a defensive end in Aiden Hutchinson. The first two picks in the NFL draft probably will be defensive ends in Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson. Probably not in that, probably in the reverse order. But coming off of a year where it was offense was king, where even the historically great Nick Saban secondary was shredded by Ole Miss for 1,000 yards in their game, and Devontae Smith and Mac Jones and Najee Harris scored 1 million points on every single team they played on. It was just nice to see Georgia just simply say no to every team. Oh, you want to do that? No. Oh, we're going to pass the football. No, you're not. And Michigan, their defense stepping up against Ohio State. And Alabama playing great defense in the SEC title game. It was just really nice to see.
That's me not being bored. That's just me being tired.
Well, okay, whatever. I mean, I think it was running. I thought it's easy to win football game. And then what was your second question?
My question
what am I looking forward to?
What are you taking into 2022? Like, what's the biggest from 2021? What's the biggest takeaway that you're taking into 2022 that you think will be the biggest impact?
You're not going to like this answer,
yeah.
But this is I think this is the true answer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Can Michigan sustain the success? Because if they can sustain their success, it changes the college football landscape entirely.
And I'm also going to interrupt you here. Can Clemson come back?
You know what? You are right. So I think it's Clemson, and I think it's Michigan. Listen, Ohio State's going to be good. Bama's going to be good.
Screw
and Georgia's
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Screw Oklahoma. Yeah. Screw USC. If those two teams are good, I think you're okay. And
also how. Because this is going to be the first year, 2022 is going to be the first real season where we're going to see how the transfer portal, truly, especially with quarterback moves, how the transfer portal
now we're thinking on the same mind
and just flips over teams. If Caleb Williams ends up at UCLA or USC, they immediately become the favorite overnight.
Miami.
I mean, Dylan Gabriel, Miami, too. Dylan Gabriel to Oklahoma. Listen, now that offense, with that up-tempo, high-paced offense, with a quarterback that knows that system, Oklahoma might be right back to where they were as well. Clemson also, using the transfer for a portal, yes.
You have to look at, and this is where we read each other's minds, if you can run the ball, you win games. Who used the transfer portal to go run the ball to win games?
Yeah, who to upgrade their offensive line.
Kenneth Walker is his name, and he was a Heisman frontrunner for most of the year. So, and he'll be a high draft pick, and he'll probably do really well in the NFL. Okay, so that makes sense. So,
and then you had another question?
I did have another random question, and I think this is probably should save this for filler, but...
Well, I mean, we are just kind of filling at this point, aren't we?
That would be a good wrap-up for the episode, but I have to ask this question.
That was me.
And you're not going to have a good answer, and that's fine, because I'm throwing this on you.
I'm going to have a great answer.
Okay. The city of Oakland and professional athletics, most likely the Athletics will be moving out of there at the end of the season, assuming that baseball still exists in 2022. They will be the third team to exit, assuming they can't come up with a new stadium. Oakland also.
Baseball was on a lockout.
They are on a lockout. Everybody was expecting it. We're probably not going to have. It's a bad lockout. This is the worst relations that we've seen since probably the 80s or 90s when the NFL was locked out.
This is the worst relations since we saw Kim Kardashian and Chris Humphries get married.
Yeah, 100%. Right. So most likely we will see in the form of how many years would that be? It would be like 3 years. A city who once had honorable sports teams lose all of their sports teams in 3 years. What do you think that says because of the shaping landscapes of the politics of Northern California as well as just the politics of stadiums and pro athletics to begin with?
Is Oakland in Northern California?
Yes.
Again, geometry question here.
It's across the bay from San Francisco. So
I thought San Francisco was in Southern California.
You mean San Diego?
Oh. Again, I don't know geometry.
For San Francisco, it's up there, and then Sacramento's up the road from San Francisco, kind of to the northeast, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
And then San Jose's south in Santa Clara. So you had the Golden State Warriors move across the bay right as they became
to
Oakland,
San Francisco,
right across to San Francisco. You had the Raiders move to Vegas, and most likely the Athletics will probably move there as well.
Yeah. What it says is,
and we've only seen stadiums be bigger, more expensive.
Yeah. So what it says is there's not everyone went out to California to have the California dream, to have the anything can happen dream out in California, because that's what California promised.
Yeah.
But now it's become overpopulated, and the political laws that are in place in California do not benefit, especially in cities, do not benefit sports teams. Because it is because sports are becoming player
centric,
thank you, and it's all about player empowerment. Speaking of MLB, the MLB Player Association is the greatest player association there is in terms of sports. They have the most power.
Yeah.
MLB
it's probably one of the most powerful unions in the United States.
That tight rules and tight gripping of rules that is the political landscape of West Coast, but especially California, is not going to work for sports teams, because owners are not going to want to pay, especially taxes as well, with high cost of living. Owners are not going to want to pay millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions in taxes. And then when their fans decline, they still have to pay all these taxes, but they have one bad season, their ticket sales decline,
right.
And so now they're stuck with this big tax bill and not this revenue. You're going to see a lot of teams, I think, move out into the suburbs or move out of California entirely, because it is the politics out there are new-aged and new school, and they want all the power, and the sports franchises, teams, and owners are not going to give up the power. Sports are the most powerful thing in America. People don't want to seem to realize that, especially people in politics. But It is. Sports run America, and if you want to get on board, you better have a sports team in your city. Indianapolis would be nothing. Pittsburgh would be nothing without the Steelers and the Colts, respectively. Philadelphia would be nothing. Philadelphia would be a trash dump. You know what they would call Philadelphia? They would call it New Jersey North. That's what they would call it.
Currently, you just described Philadelphia. So, I think...
I did, didn't I?
You like that? You like that?
I think... I don't think you're wrong. It says...
I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying to say, so maybe you can say it better.
It's fine. I think it speaks for, especially Northern California is much different. The income disparity between high end, low end is just astronomical, and especially a lot more of the finance bros kind of getting into sports where, you know, we're coming out of ownerships where these guys either A, own the teams forever, or it was a family who owned the teams forever. See the Fords in Detroit. I forget the guy who owns the Raiders as a perfect example.
Right, yeah.
And they're
Davises.
Yeah, these are the Davises. We're coming out of that, and the only way, because they're so valuable to buy these teams, is you're going to take 45% from this, not trust fund, hedge fund, and we're going to put 55% from me and a bunch of other minority owners, and we're going to buy a team because in 2 years, it's like a piece of art for some reason. The value's going to be double of what it is. We saw that with the Houston Rockets. And the issue that California has, respectively, is they just don't care. And I'm going to leave it at that. California...
that is perfect. They just don't care.
California does not necessarily run themselves as a business. No state does. But specifically, they just try to throw money at situations. Doesn't always work.
And it doesn't work. It never works. It's California.
Yeah.
And I think something I didn't touch on, or you didn't, or we both didn't touch on, was cost of living. Cost of living is and I kind of mentioned that with taxes, is astronomical.
And, if
in California,
it 100% is. And if there's one thing that the pandemic showed us, it was the fact of, why am I going to a sports game? Like, I'd rather either A, play it, or B, the only reason college football is because you don't go to college football. You don't necessarily go to a college football game for the game. You and I do. A lot of us go for the atmosphere. Like, that's why we can drag Carrie places.
I mean, we win absolutely, but what did we do when we went to the Maryland game? We got there how early?
Like
4 hours early,
or 3 hours early. We tailgated. We had a good time.
Drank, and we ate, and we threw football, and my pinky still hurts from that.
And we had a good time, and you don't necessarily, unless you're in Buffalo. Speaking of a family who owns it, I think they still own it.
A city that would be nothing without their sports team.
A city that would be nothing without their sports team and needs an indoor facility. That's the only besides maybe Pittsburgh with the biggest. Well, and they don't tailgate, but they do up in Buffalo. So you're gonna see a lot of power vacuum. You're gonna see centralization of power. It's gonna be what it is. Watch the MLB. Oakland's a great example. You're only going to see Sacramento. You're only going to see teams move out of LA. You're only going to see San Antonio on the come up. You're going to see Austin on the come up. You're going to see more moves into probably Denver, Midwest, Louisville. Cities like this who don't necessarily get a lot of love will start getting a lot of love because they're more friendly for the bottom line of these teams. Watch out, Washington, D.C. They might pull your teams. FedEx Field's a trash heap.
Well, speaking of the Washington football team...
You want to know why that broke? They were zip-tied together. I just learned that today.
They still are zip-tied together.
And this is also the same stadium earlier this year who had a sewage leak.
And it was... the NFL actually had to investigate when Robert Griffin III tore his ACL, and then the Adrian Peterson tore his ACL. Like,
their turf was horrible.
Superstar.
Yeah.
Their turf's horrible. Speaking of the Washington football team, they're announcing their new name on February 2nd. Like, who gives a shit? No one cares. Announce your team now over Twitter like everyone else and get on with your life. Okay? Like, no one gives a shit. Move on. You guys suck. Everyone picked you to win the Everyone picked you to win the division, and you can't even beat Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts, who can't throw from the pocket, and a team that runs 55% of the time in Philadelphia. Like, come on, what are you doing?
That was the 4th and 1 podcast. I'm honestly just going to leave it on that one. I liked it. We don't have outro music because Riverside's being weird.
But wash your hands, you filthy animals.
Go for it.
Wash your hands, you filthy animals. Be kind to one another. We will be back, I don't know, some point, probably next week, maybe next week to wrap up, really wrap up the college football season and do the Natty. Again, it's Georgia. Pick Georgia. That's who we're betting on, minus the 3 or 2.5, however you...
Hey! It actually decided to work. Keep going.
I can't keep... What?
Huh?
My ears are blown out. We will be back next week. I am Captain Boring. That is the new host, Simeon. And we'll see y'all later. God bless. Peace out.